Social media harms teens' mental health because it can cause them to feel bad about themselves. Social media can be addicting and increases anxiety and depression. Recently, some researchers have associated online social networking with several psychiatric disorders, including depressive symptoms, anxiety, and low self esteem.
Your opinion on social media?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I wish it would go away. I honestly do, especially for the young. Um, I think it is definitely a negative influence for you guys. The peer pressure is really hard for you guys. You can't get away. You can't get away from what's everybody doing, what's everybody saying. How do I keep up with everybody? A lot of kids are saying I'm not good enough when they see whether it's real or false that's being posted, and then the negative things that are being posted, and that's the hiding behind.
How do you think social media would have affected you as a teen?
Oof, that's a great question. I think I would have faced it just like you guys are. Um, you can't get away from it, where you're tempted to have it on at night. You're tempted to be on social media rather than with doing your homework. I had the phone where it was like get on the phone and talk to a friend, but then your parents could have you say, okay, that's enough, hang up, because we had landlines right back then. For you guys, I would say for me also, it would have been the same thing where the temptations are great and you get lost. And I was telling that to one of my CSI groups. Like, I sat in bed and I tell everyone, like, put the phone away. And just recently I did the same thing, like sat in bed. Next thing I know it, I look at the clock and it's 1:30 in the morning. It's just so easy to watch all the different reels and what's going on.
As an English teacher, have you noticed differences in how teens act in and out of the classroom?
I absolutely have. I've been teaching nearly 30 years, and I've noticed when it actually came about, and when social media actually started, there was a little bit of creeping in, and I actually had students that told me that they had to block their social media accounts because they weren't getting their homework done. And I didn't really understand it at the time because I wasn't on social media, but as I got social media myself, I started to understand what was taking up so much of their
It can be
time.
good for some things, like it's easy to talk to people who don't live around you. It's like I have family members who live in other states, so I can easily talk to them. I mean, I can text them too. But I remember when I graduated high school, social media was kind of just starting out. So when I was younger, if somebody moved away, like you just basically never talk to them again. But social media allows that to, like being able to talk to people who live far away, allows you to talk to people, meet new people.
Although social media can be an excellent way to keep in touch with loved ones around the world, there are better ways to stay in contact that don't have long term effects on mental health. Growing research finds that the more time spent on social media, the more likely a person will experience mental health symptoms like anxiety, isolation, and hopelessness. And according to one recent study, high levels of social media use over the span of 4 years was associated with increased depression among middle and high school youth.
So one of the things I think for teenagers is a lot of times social media can sort of be like sort of your best life. Like you post the fun day that you had, but you don't post the like 6 other days of the week where you were just like on your couch. So sometimes it looks like, your life is really exciting and you have all these fun things going on, but most of the time you're not doing those things. Those are just like your highlights. Rate how wonderful things are for other people and kind of devalue their life and how things are for them. Like I have a super boring life and like look at this fun, life that someone else has. When really that may not be true.
Affected you as a teen?
I think it would have been really awful for me as a teen. I think it would have been very hard because I had a group of friends that looking back, I probably should have picked better friends. I had a few, especially a really close friend of mine was sometimes very mean and was bossy, and I tended to be more like passive and kind of going along. So I think having that social media influence would have made just insecurities and like just those kind of relationships much harder. Um,
As a psychologist, how do you see the effects of social media in your students?
So there's so much research now about social media, especially they've done a lot on Instagram about how it is highly correlated, especially for females, with depression and anxiety. Because people really are feeling those effects from just scrolling and looking at people's highlights and comparing themselves. I think girls have a tendency to be more comparative than boys do for some reason. And so, yeah, I think that definitely the depression and anxiety are a negative effect. I think also just as a psychologist, I think, your brain is growing and changing, and you're changing as a person, especially in your teens, you're developing your identity. And so a lot of times you're kind of comparing yourself to other people and like, how do I fit in? Am I like pretty? Am I, smart? Am I successful? And when you have that comparison that you can just, plug into and kind of watch people, it just.
Social media being a fundamental part of people's lives leaves an immense impact on every aspect. Scrolling and checking social media has become an almost daily routine of over half the world's population's daily activities. According to statistics, in the last 5 years, the number of social media users has almost doubled, increasing from 2.2 billion in 2015 to 4.5 billion in 2022.
Than what's going on, all around them, even people next to them. And in the classroom, it does impact a lot of students' work because they are not able to get their work done because they're focusing on other things. And then outside of the classroom, I've seen it have some negative effects because students are, it's easier to hide behind a screen and hide behind social media. So there's a lot of rumors that get started. There's a lot of kind of, I guess, maybe sort of not fighting, I would say, but word wars that go on and misunderstandings because people aren't necessarily directly talking to each other anymore to work out these differences. So I definitely think I've seen an uptick in their behaviors, their lack of understanding the importance of paying attention to what's going on in the classroom, and also the lack of understanding that sometimes we just need to communicate face to face and build relationships with people.
In Ontario, the proportion of teenagers reporting moderate to serious mental distress increased from 24% in 2013 to 34% in 2015 and to 39% in 2017. Social media overall has a negative impact on teenagers and can cause signs of depression and anxiety, as well as teens getting addicted and not being able to focus on schoolwork.